Shalom, I'll give all the praise to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahshua, Ba'ashem, Rash, the mystery that is most of the best who taught me the truth of sincerity, citations to the hopeful that spread that fruit desire. Now, let's go another. This is another lesson titled. It's a two-part video entitled "Did the Edomites vanish from history?" Question mark. It was Obadiah 1 to fulfill? Question mark. Okay, and this lesson, I was inspired to do this lesson by watching this video by this channel called the Christian Channel, okay, and it entitled Edom and Petra, Jacob's brother, who defied God and vanished from history. Now, in this video, okay, they mentioned that Esau, okay, the Edomites, right, they vanished from history, okay, meaning what that we cannot link them, we cannot link the Edomites in history today, okay, we can't, the Edomites, they don't exist today. And he quote a lot of scriptures in which he butchered and botched those scriptures entirely. Okay, he completely he broke those scriptures down incorrectly. Those that he quoted. Okay, so this two-part video is to prove that Esau, the Edomites, okay, they didn't vanish from history, and also to answer both of those questions, to answer the question that did the Edomites vanish from history, and to answer the question that was Obadiah going to fulfill, which, okay, I'm going to answer those in these in the two-part video. Now, first, I want to grab this. Let's see. Genesis 4, okay. Now I'm going to start off with a precept, okay. Now Genesis 4 going to Cain and Abel, right? And we know that Adam, Eve, Cain and Abel, okay. We know that we should be familiar with that story, but basically, Abel or Cain slew his brother Abel because Abel offered up a more acceptable sacrifice unto the Lord Yahweh. Of course, Cain got jealous because he offered, vegetables and fruits unto the Lord. Okay. And I was just going to start here in Genesis, the 4th chapter. Genesis 4:8 reads, and Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the fields that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. All right. Well, he murdered him. Okay. And the Lord Yahweh said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, yeah, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? Okay. So he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood cried unto me from the spirit. That it goes back to what Abel's spirit, okay, crying unto the Lord in the heavens, okay, in the spiritual realm. All right. And now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. When thou tillest the ground, it should not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall thou be in the earth. Okay. And Cain said unto the Lord, Yahweh, my punishment is greater than I can bear. Behold, thou hast driven me out this day from the face of the earth, and from thy face shall I be hid. And I should be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth, and it should come to pass that everyone that findeth me should slay me. All right. Now, and the Lord Yahweh said unto him, therefore, whosoever slayeth Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold. And the Lord set a mark upon Cain, lest any finding him should kill him. Okay, now this is why this precept right here I just read. This precept is very important. Okay. Now, now Cain, right? If we're following the Hebrew Israelite, if we following this truth, right? You know, we know that Cain is the reincarnation of Esau. Okay, because Cain is that serpent. Okay, Cain is um, he's a incarnation of the spiritual demon Satan. Okay, all right. We always say that you cannot have righteous without have wicked. All right. Someone has to play the role of the wicked. Someone has to play the role of righteous. Okay. So in this time, there is currently the seed of the wicked and the seed of the righteous. Okay. There's a bad guy and there's a good guy. If you can't understand it, then you just can't understand it. But okay, there's a good guy and there's a bad guy. All right. The good guy is Jacob. All right. The righteous. Okay. Abel, etc. And the bad guys are what? Esau and Cain, right? Etc. Etc. That's the wicked, right? All right. And basically, whoever should vengeance should be taken on himself, or they're going by taking them out of power. Okay. And that mark is the point, right? The mark. What does that mark represent? A mark, a sign, a signal, a distinguishing mark. Okay. Otho. All right. Now, this mark represents leprosy. Okay. The Lord um, curse came with leprosy. Now, the leprosy came through Esau. Okay. When Esau was born, right? And basically, his skin turned red. His skin was red, represent, um, you know, him being white. Okay. Lest any finding him should kill him. All right. Let's uh, finish out this precept here. Okay, so that mark that was upon Cain, we have to understand that that mark was a mark of leprosy. It was, his, and that mark is ultimately shown through Esau. Okay, now I just got here John 8:44 just to bring out, how Cain is a seed of the wicked, right? And how Cain is the you know, he's a person. He's an incarnation, especially in the saint, right? Ye are of your fathers, the devil. This is Yahushua speaking to the Israelites, okay? Um, and the lust of your father you would do. He was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in the truth because there is no truth in him. When he speaks that lie, he speaks of his own, for he's a liar and the father of it. All right, okay. But just bring up a point that um, it can represent that spirit of the wicked that ultimately continued through Esau. Okay, going back to Genesis 25, right? Um, Genesis 25:25 reads, start here. Genesis 25:24. Now just going back to Isaac's sons. Okay. I'm sorry, Genesis 25:23. It says, and the Lord said unto her, all right, now this is what when Rebecca went to a prophet of the Lord, okay, to inquire to the Lord about, the battle that's going on in her womb. All right, two nations are in that womb. Two nations. So these are two nations. Two nations. Two manner of people. Okay, should be separated from that bowels, and the one people should be stronger than the other people, and the elder should serve the younger. Okay, so two nations. All right, which means you have what the Israelites, which represent Jacob, Esau, which represent the wicked. Right. Okay. Jacob, which represents righteous, Esau, which represents wicked, right? And two men are people, which goes back to what their characteristics. One would be righteous and one would be wicked, right? One would be more holy, the other would be more wicked, more unholy. And the elder should serve the younger. Let's go back to what Esau serving Jacob, okay? And when her 2 days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they call his name Esau. All right. Now he came out red. Okay, and we all would like to say that this red represent their skin complexion. Okay, ultimately Esau came out with a skin condition called leprosy. Okay, Esau came out a leopard. Okay, now and how do we know this? Right, because we know that in that land, in Western Asia, okay, so-called Middle East, there wasn't if you want to put like this, red people or people with leprosy. Okay, um, just wondering about that land. Okay, it was all dark brown skinned people. Okay, Jacob was brown, Isaac, Rebecca was brown. All right, I have just some different images. Okay, just to prove that. All right, so he came out red. His skin complexion was red. Okay, um, there's just about back to him having that white skin. Okay, a leopard. All right. After that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 30 years old when she bare him, she bears him. Okay, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. Okay, all right. So that goes back to what two men are people. Okay, and we can use these different characteristics just to prove that who people are today. All right. but I have my precepts to get into to prove that Esau is still here. Okay. Um, Genesis 27 today reads, and Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Right. So this was when Jacob supplanted Esau. Okay, blessing. All right. And Isaac ended up blessing Jacob, the blessing that he was going to give Esau, but that was all done in the spirit, right? Because Jacob was of the seed of the righteous. Okay, remember the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, Isaac, right, and Jacob. Okay, or Abraham, Isaac, right, and ultimately that covenant went through the righteous. Okay, it didn't go to the wicked, it went to the righteous seed, which was Jacob. And Isaac, his father, answered and said to him, behold, thy dwelling should be the fatness of the earth and the dew of the heaven from above. Okay, so basically Esau will, he will rule the world. Okay, just put it like that. He will rule the world. All right. He will rule. He will have all the finest thing of this world, of this earth. Okay, and by that sword shall thou live. Okay, and should serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. Okay. So Esau will live by the sword. Okay, and this is what we see now. Okay, who controls this world, right? You know, who's ruling this world by the sword? Okay, who's you know? Think about your top presidents. Okay, we're talking about the Edomites, not the other nations, not the Edom. Okay, the Ishmaelites. Okay, the Irans. Right, talk about the Edomites. So the Americans. Okay, Germany, UK, Britain. Okay, etc. etc. List goes on. Right. No, they are the Edomites. Okay, let me get her Job 9:24, one of my favorite precepts to pull out. It says, the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? All right. Okay. The earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Going back to Genesis 25:27. Okay. Esau blessing the fatness of the earth. Okay. And the dew of the heaven from above. Right. This goes back to what the earth is given to the hand of the wicked. Esau have power on this earth. Right. He covered the faces of the judges thereof. Okay. That goes back to what? Iconoclasm. Right. Um, if not, where and who is he? So if Esau is not the wicked, where's the wicked at? Okay. Okay. Um, Now, Genesis 36, okay, and 1. It said, now these are the generation of Esau, who is Edom, okay, so the Edomites. Right? Edom was destroyed, okay. Adumio, the Edomite Adumio, okay, red, okay, who is red, basically, who is white, okay, leopard. Esau took his wives of the daughters of Canaan, Ada, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anah, the daughter of Zebulun the Hivite, and Bathsheba, Ishmael's daughter, sister of Nabajah. Ada bare to Esau, Iplaz, and Bethman bare Real, Aholibamah bare Jeush and Jalon and Korah. These are the sons of Esau, which were born unto him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives and his son and his daughters and all the persons of his house and his cattle and all his beasts and all his substance which he had got in the land of Canaan. And he went into the country from the face of his brother Jacob. For their riches were more than that they might dwell together in the land wherein they were strangers, could not bear them because of their cattle. Okay. Thus dwelt Esau in Mount Seir. Esau is Egypt. All right. So let's look at that word Mount Seir. All right. Seir. Okay. Hairy or shaggy. Right. Petrarch. Okay. A mountain range in Edom, extending from the Dead Sea. So it's a mountain range, so they dwell in the mountains. Okay. And that support Job as well. Job 30. Job 30 and 6. It reads, Job 31 says, but now they that are younger than I have me in derision. Your father, I will have disdain to have set with the dogs of my flock. Okay. Meaning what these people are mocking Job. Okay. You know, because Job is in a base state. Okay. He's in a low east state currently, right? They have power over Job. Yeah, whereunto might the strength of their hands profit me, in whom old age was perished. For want and famine they were solitary, fleeing into the wilderness in former time desolate and waste. Okay. Let's go back to Genesis 3. All right, I forgot about Genesis 3. Let me get that chapter. Genesis 3, right? Because let's go back to the Lord cursing um, the wicked. Okay. Genesis 3 and 14. And the Lord Yahweh Most High said unto the serpent, because thou hast done this, you know what, because thou hast this, which was a man, okay? The Lord didn't curse a snake, okay? The actual literal snake, the serpent represents the characteristic of this man, of this wicked person, okay? Because thou hast done this, thou art cursed above all cattle, and above every beast of the field. Upon thy belly shalt thou go, and thus shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. That goes back to what? A state of confusion. You cannot read these scriptures, okay, um, literally, right? You know, you can't read of a snake eating dust, okay, all the days of their life. No, okay, it's you don't see a snake out here just eating dust, okay, to survive. All right, so this have to we have to be able to discern, right? This does represent a state of confusion, all right, being brought low, okay, having no having no having no sense of what you call it, um, not having any morals per se, not having morals, okay, being immoral, being wicked, okay, right? It doesn't blue and blue letter goes off. It doesn't actually explain it, but we know what it means, right? Now put in enmity meaning hatred between thee and the woman, in between thy seed and her seed. It should bruise thy head, and thou should bruise his heel, right? That goes back into um, between thy seed and her seed, right? You know, the between the serpent, the wicked, all right, and the righteous, okay? You know, and it should bruise thy head, and thou should bruise, and thou should bruise his heel. And especially this woman represent Israel, okay? Now just go back here to Job 30 and um, 4, right? Because you know during this time, okay, Esau, you know, the wicked, they were in captivity, right? They were in a state of captivity, confusion. Um, but now they're in power, okay? Job 30 and 5 reads, or Job 34, it says, "Who cut up mellows by the bushes and juniper roots for their meat?" Right? Just you know, living immoral, okay? Cursed with that, cursed with the dust of the ground, okay? Eating the dust, cursed with being cursed with confusion, okay? They were driven from one man. They cried after them as after beasts, to dwell in the cliffs of the valley, in caves of the earth and the rocks. Okay, now this goes back to what? Genesis the 36th chapter, right? Dwelling in Mount Seir, okay, which ultimately goes back to Petra, a land called Petra, right? Now Petra means rock in the Greek, okay, all right. And this is what basically this video here is going to Edom and Petra, right? Edom, the Edomites dwelt in Mount Seir, and well, Petra, which biblically known as Mount Seir, right? In which to line the line to ultimately bring up the point to line them up today, right? Their name, right? They were or the you know um, a Greek, not Greek, a German, um, yeah, this where the word Caucasian comes from. Caucasian became a widely used word for white people. A German anthropologist named Johann Blumenbach set out to create a system of labels for different races. All right. Upon visiting the Caucasus Mountains, he became enamored with the appearance of the people there in terms that they had an idea for more beauty, which they didn't. All right. But it just goes back to showing that, the Edomites will dwell in the Caucasus Mountain, they'll dwell in the Roth. Okay. And just bring out this point here. Um, it says from the Latin Caucasus and from the Greek Caucasus gave Plinius Scanners called Pliny the Elder, a Roman author who wrote the Encyclopedic Naturalis Historia, said Caucasus is from a Scythia word similar to Caucasus, literally the mountain, ice shiny white with snow. Okay, so these devils, they gave themselves or use that term Caucasian to differentiate between races, right? But literally, they know, right? It was spiritual, right? Because it represents who they are. They are wicked. They are they are the cursed seed. Okay, that seed, the Lord made enmity, or the Lord divide between the um, wicked and the righteous, right? Going back all the way back to in the garden in Eden, right? And it played out mostly through Jacob and Esau. Okay, and it's still playing out today, right? Because ultimately this devil led the Israelites, okay, into captivity, all right, and they control this world now. But there's more precepts you can bring out to I'm going to bring out too to prove that how these devils came into power. Okay, how did they rule the world? How did they went from the Caucasus Mountains, went from Mount Seir to now ruling the entire world, right? Actually playing out their blessings. Okay, going back to Genesis, the 25th chapter, right? Or Genesis. Um, I'm going to get here in. Yeah, here. Not here, but here. All right. So the first Caucasian to bring all Caucasian nations under his rule and conquer the world, the Greek Empire was the beginning of Caucasian rule. Alexander the Great. Okay, so Alexander the Great, right? Because before Alexander the Great or became into power, you know, you had other nations, okay, in power that had the Israelites under control, right? You have the Egyptians, right? The Egyptians, right? The Persians, right? Which Egyptians are the Mithrites, right? Hamites. Persians are the Edomites, East, right? And we know that the Greek took the Persians out of power, right? Um, right? So this the interpretation, right, of the king's dream, right? Um, this is a dream, and we will tell the temperatures that are before the king, right? because his dream basically going to this golden statue. Okay, thou, O King, art a King of kings, for the Most High of heaven has given thee a kingdom, power, and strength and glory. And wheresoever the children of man dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven has he given into thy hand, and has made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold, right? Medo Persian Greece. And after these shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. Okay. All right. Probably gonna close it here. I'm gonna end it off in the second part, but I'm just gonna close it here by giving honor and praise to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shabbat Shalom. Till next time,